the consulate, and what we are currently dealing with, and then would love to hear what you would be interested in discussing and hearing from me about. So, as mentioned, I assumed my position in Atlanta about 10 months ago, and we do cover the Southeast, though Israel has sort of uniquely redefined that to include Georgia, North and South Carolina, West Virginia, Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee. We have a consulate in Miami, and from there they handle Alabama and Mississippi, which is why they're not in the area that we cover. But in these 7 states, we are charged with promoting Israel's bilateral relations in this region on the many different levels, the political level, the economic, academic, cultural, outreach to communities, and of course, as with anywhere where we have a mission and there are Jewish communities in that area, the relationship with the Jewish community is always a goal in and of itself for us, because we attach great importance, Israel attaches great importance to maintaining our relationship with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, and in trying to ensure the strength of that relationship moving forward as well. Coming into this position, I defined my different goals and objectives, and I have to say that some have remained as I thought they would, and some have changed. Not only because we all find ourselves these days in a very unprecedented situation, having to adapt to not only what no one could really predict, but also what no one can really say how long this current situation will be here and will accompany us. Um, we we are following closely the political developments here in the US, the upcoming elections. We have, since the establishment of the modern state of Israel, we have always maintained exceptionally strong relations with the United States. It is by far Israel's most important ally in the world, and we have managed to do so regardless of who was the specific administration at any given time, and who was the specific government in Israel at any given point in time, because those relationships are based on common ground, on mutual interest, on shared values. And looking at the upcoming elections here, we are seeing a lot of discourse that involves Israel as well. And most important for us is to continue to work to ensure the strength of the relations, and that they remain bipartisan in their nature as they have always been. We are dealing on a regular basis with a matter which I did not envision would be so relevant here in the US and in this region, and that is the issue of anti-Semitism. That is something that unfortunately is ever present, and we are even seeing now during this pandemic that anti-Semitism has even taken on new forms with the state of Israel and with the Jewish people being blamed, and there are different conspiracy theories out there, outrageous ones, blaming the Jews for supposedly being the ones that are spreading the virus, the Jews, Israel benefiting supposedly from the spread of the virus. We are seeing now the other developments in the United States. in the aftermath of the horrible killing of George Floyd. We are seeing those same anti-Semites and Israel bashers trying to use this crisis in order to bash Israel, trying to link what is going on here to supposed alleged connections to Israel, to exchanges between Israeli police and the police in the United States. The two, of course, have nothing to do with one another. They have as much to do with one another as the Jewish people has to do with the spread of the coronavirus. But that is what we have seen all throughout history. Unfortunately, in times of crisis, different attempts are made to link those crises and blame them on the Jews or on the state of Israel. So that is something that, from the consulate's perspective, we are working to address. We have been doing investing a lot of effort in our outreach to the African American community. We are working on developing different programs and projects with regards to hate, anti-Semitism, and racism having much in common. And in that regard, we are looking at an education program, different types of content that we can invest and that can assist us in highlighting the commonalities between the different communities and between different forms of hate. And I think that that is very relevant for these days specifically. Israeli President Rivlin just held yesterday a call with leaders of the American Jewish community across the US. And in that call, among others, he stressed the need to fight anti-Semitism together as we need to fight racism together, because both are different sides of the same coin. We are working to see during this time how we can still promote and strengthen the bilateral relations, as I mentioned, on the many different levels. On the economic level, we are trying to see what kind of connections we can make between Israeli research and innovation, Israeli companies that are developing different technologies to address different aspects of dealing with COVID-19, and trying to see where we can make those connections here in the Southeast. We are trying to forge more connections also in the academic field in that regard, but also more broadly, and trying to see how we can still maintain those close relationships even while we cannot meet in person. Looking at Georgia, for example, we were now supposed to be already just after the planned visit of Georgia's governor to Israel. He was to lead a large delegation in May from Georgia that would have, I think, had great importance and impact on further advancing the strong relations between the state of Georgia and the state of Israel. We are now having conversations in order to try and see what can we do in the meantime to still advance all of those potential relationships, given that we do not see in the foreseeable future the possibility to have in-person visits and delegations. So trying, I assume, as all of you here on this call, We are trying to adapt as best we can to the given situation while still promoting the goals for which we are here as a consulate. So I think that's very, very brief and general, just an introduction to what we do, and would be happy to hear from you what you may be interested in discussing. Yes, Ken, I see you raising your hand. You can unmute yourself.
I have a question that is probably going to be unexpected. I happen to be an archaeologist and historian, and very recently I read an article about a genetic study that was done that showed that both Jews and the Palestinians have a common heritage from the Canaanites. So the potential impact of something like that will be, I believe, something that will be picked up by the Palestinians to demonize, the Jews in Israel, and that they have an equal right of return to live in the land there. How would you see something like this?
Well, opportunities for demonizing Israel are endless, really. And I don't think that you really need a good reason. We see very bad reasons that have nothing to do with reality, and yet they serve to and are used as opportunities for demonizing Israel. I think ultimately it all comes down to the same bottom line. If the Palestinians are after self-determination, are after some sort of state of their own, they will need to come to the negotiating table in order to reach that end goal. There is really no way around that. And there is now yet another opportunity because the American administration has presented its vision for a peace plan. The Israeli government just yesterday again reiterated its commitment to pursuing a peaceful agreement with the Palestinians. We have to see the Palestinians step up and say that they are willing to reach a solution, that they are willing to accept Israel's legitimacy as the nation state of the Jewish people to exist alongside this state that they supposedly seek. But if their intent, those who try to demonize Israel for the sake of undermining Israel's legitimacy to exist in any borders, well, in that regard, we have no common grounds for discussion.
Right.
Yes, Paul, I see you raising your hand.
Okay.
Good.
You were talking about anti-Semitism in this country. Does the government of Israel, through its consulates or whatever connections you have any way to work with colleges, universities where the anti-Semitism is rampant? I know it's more so in the east, northeast, and the west coast. However, it's around everywhere. So is there anything Israel can do, has done, or tries to do, or work with other organizations to help this?
Thank you, Paul. And absolutely, that is one of the areas of most concern to us. We have had, I have had many conversations with different university administrations in that regard. It is something that we are following closely and we address on a regular basis. That being said, very frankly, not all of the conversations have left me very optimistic because I do not feel that there is everywhere necessarily an acknowledgement of why this issue needs to be addressed more seriously. And one of the ways that we are working to try to promote a better framework for addressing this issue is through the adoption of the IRA working definition of anti-Semitism. The IRA is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, an alliance of which there are different member countries, including the United States, whose State Department and Department of Education have adopted that working definition. This working definition provides a very, very clear not only definition of what constitutes anti-Semitism, but also illustrations, examples of what falls under anti-Semitism, because very often you will have a conversation about something that to us is so obviously very clear anti-Semitism, and the other side will not understand what is anti-Semitic about it necessarily, or why it is being interpreted that way. And so we think that the definition provides a very good framework, and we are trying to not only encourage the adoption of this definition on a state level, but also at the university level. What we are also trying to do is not work on this by ourselves, because I think that combating anti-Semitism cannot be something that the Jewish community or the State of Israel addresses on its own. I think that there is an obligation by the international community. And so in Atlanta, for example, I've met with other colleagues from the Consular Corps who represent countries who are also members of this International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, and whose countries have also adopted this working definition. And we are making some of these approaches together as representatives of the international community. Hopefully we can make some progress. Many of what we had been working on has been delayed due to COVID-19, but that is a long-term goal that we will continue to work on. We will continue to have conversations and continue to encourage universities and campuses to have those conversations among themselves and with the students, because you can't effectively address the problem before you recognize that there is a problem and actually have those conversations that need to be had.
Well, I mean, yeah. The problems are very easily recognizable when you look at an event in a college. I mean, you don't need a definition to tell you that what is going on is truly anti-Semitic. I mean, there's
yes, of course. To you, that's obvious. But even when we see incidents involving swastikas or a very explicit anti-Semitic graffiti or whatever it may be on a campus, we will still see some university administrations refer to hate expressions, not using the word anti-Semitism. And
but what are you doing? And I mean, maybe you can say that Israel as a country or the consulate really can do very little, but somebody on a campus, whether it be the Jewish campus organization, somebody needs support. And I guess the question is, does Israel have any way of reaching out and supporting these organizations that can really combat what goes on a campus? If you can, I understand, but
Well, we of course we do not determine policy outside of Israel, but we do, as I said, engage with all the relevant parties. We do engage and partner with other organizations.
Okay.
That is our mandate, and that is what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Aaron, I think your hand's been raised for a while. I just want to make sure that you got seen because there's so many different things. So if you want to unmute yourself, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes? No, you've just muted yourself again.
So I'm clear now?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. We have, I'm counting up, almost 20 grandchildren and great-grandchildren in Israel. And we've had to cancel trips there because of the 2-week quarantine. Is there any idea that that might be lifted in the next 3-6 months?
Well, an excellent question. Unfortunately, one to which I do not have an answer. Israel has been, as you all may have seen, has been taking different steps and measures in order to try to ensure that we can effectively control and prevent further spread of the virus in Israel. And as of now, the different restrictions in place include also the fact that only Israeli citizens can travel to Israel, and even they, all of them, need to go into 14 days of quarantine. We do not know when that policy will change. We do know that Israel is looking at other countries, trying to identify specific countries which have effective control over the spread of the virus. Those will likely be the first countries to selectively be able to have Israelis go there and their citizens come to Israel. I cannot say when that will be in place regarding travelers from the United States.
So we'll go and we can go, that's all. Okay, that's all I want to know.
I know Carol Greenberg also has a question.
Yes, hi, thank you. Sorry, for some reason, I can't raise my hand on this. It really piggybacks on questions about travel and also in some ways on anti-Semitism, and that is the impact on the tourist economy. So with limited travel now, or no travel, and so much of Israel's economy based on the tourist industry, the first part of my question is, from the Israeli side, is there something that the Israeli government is doing to help people that are in the tourist industry to develop other ways of making up that portion of the economy? And the second part, from the American side, especially where things, trips that are coming from Jewish camps or non-Jewish trips that are aimed at teaching people about Jewish culture and fighting anti-Semitism, or trips like Birthright. Is there an attempt by the Israeli government perhaps to augment education programs that we have here in the United States or other places that tourists are coming from, in order to try and make up the invaluable lessons that they learned about Jewish culture and fighting anti-Semitism when they go to Israel? Is there something that you can do in the interim to try and take care of what is now missing from, from that essential education?
Yeah, well, I'll address the two aspects of the question. With regards to tourism, yes, Israel, like Georgia and other places around the world, has been significantly impacted in its tourism industry by COVID-19. we can share in the group, by the way, the webinar that we held just yesterday with the representative of the Israeli Tourism Ministry that has an office here in Atlanta, who shared how the Ministry of Tourism is working to address the current situation and a plan for the day after. Currently, what the gradual process in Israel has to do less with tourism, international tourism at this point, and more with starting to open up for internal domestic tourism, because Israelis are also not traveling abroad as they are used to. So that is one way to match, even if very partially, between the needs of the tourism industry and those Israelis who wish to travel. We now have the summer break, summer holidays in Israel. The children are out of school. And so that is something that that the Ministry of Tourism is encouraging, but looking also towards international travel. As I mentioned, we are currently looking at specific countries, hoping that we will be able to reintroduce international travel, even if partially at this point. And you're right, we're looking at the US and we're looking at so many different plans, whether it's official delegations that were in the planning, whether it's Jewish organizations, Birthright. I just received this morning an email from Hillel with a big delegation that had been postponed from March to August, asking whether this will be able to take place. Unfortunately, at this time, we do not see realistically any delegation taking place. We do know that there are different virtual programs on offer for students, for others. I mentioned Hillel, and so I know that Hillel, for example, is organizing many virtual events and contents for their community to be able to access online these days, because they cannot get together, they cannot travel, etc. But we have different organizations, Zionist organizations, who are offering virtual content. The Ministry of Tourism is offering virtual tours of Israel for those interested. None of these, of course, can replace the real experience, but for those seeking the virtual content now, when they are unable to travel to Israel, that, of course, is available, and we can share in the chat box the link also to that webinar that we had yesterday with the Ministry of Tourism, and the link to their website as well. I see here Elise with a raised hand. Do you want to unmute?
Am I unmuted yet?
Sharon, you're good.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I keep hoping that Israel will be the first country to come up with a vaccine, because I'm in that age group. I'm going to be sitting here until that vaccine comes out. At least, are they, I mean, is there any indication of Israel, their great scientists, coming close to a vaccine? And are they working with other countries?
Sharon, I share your concern and interest in seeing a vaccine in place as soon as possible. We know that there are different trials going on in the US and in Israel as well. We have at least two ongoing trials for vaccines in development. It is still early to say when and who will be the first company to emerge with an effective vaccine. There are attempts in Israel. It will be wonderful to see that come out of Israel. I cannot say at this point when. And if indeed it will be an Israeli company. We know that there are different Israeli technologies currently underway with regards to vaccines, with regards to treatments, and also with regards to diagnosis, which is a part of the problem that is restricting so many these days from venturing outside. There is, for example, an initial, there is a technology that is currently going through different phases, also with the FDA, of a testing that takes 1 minute to get the results on whether a person is infected or not. That could be a game changer in the short term until there is a vaccine in place, because it could provide an indication of whether one could possibly be exposed or not. But I can't say that I have an answer regarding the vaccine. We are anxiously waiting that as well, I guess, as everyone around us is.
Thank you, Sharon, for your question. Allison Mayer, I know that your hand was raised, so I just want to make sure. But you're still muted. Okay.
I'm here. You hear me?
Excellent. Yes.
Okay, I want to make a few points. Now, I came from United States 2 weeks and a half ago. I was in quarantine for 2 weeks. Yeah, for 2 weeks in a quarantine, like everyone come to Israel, but I want to say a few things. First of all, about the Palestinians. After the survey yesterday, 80% of the Palestinians prefer the Israeli government. They don't want to live in the Palestinian authority. Second, Israel, you don't need any tourists at all. To compare to Savannah, the Savannah have 10 times more tourists than Israel. In Israel, the tourists is a really small part of the economy of the country. And maybe it is good for the Israelis, like she said, to travel inside the country. And another thing, today the government say until the 1st of July, everybody who comes to Israel have to stay in quarantine. Maybe after that they open the borders. I hope the Americans going to be more severe like in Israel, to be more disciplined. Me, I want to tell you by my experience, I got the police twice come to visit my house to see if I'm in the, not get in, if I'm in the house, I'm in quarantine. And after this, from the Minister of the Health, they call me 2 times to see if I'm okay, if you have any problem. I think if they do that in the state, they be better with the COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't recognize a question in there, so I assume we can leave it at that with the comments. Thank you. Yes, Ken.
I wanted to ask your opinion on the issue about if the government, if Netanyahu goes ahead and annexes a portion of the West Bank. Isn't that going to be a showstopper for any negotiations by Israel taking some more of the territory?
I think, frankly, it is premature to discuss a decision that has not yet been taken by the Israeli government. The discussion of the possibility of the application of Israeli law, of Israeli sovereignty on a portion of the territory in the West Bank has been discussed, also in the framework of discussing this peace plan and what has been proposed by the American administration, but there has not yet been a decision taken on this matter, and I think it would be premature to address a matter that has yet to be decided on.
Okay.
Anybody else with any questions? All right. Annette, do you have anything else you would like to share? If not, we will bid you adieu and thank you for your time. I just wasn't.
Thank you. All I can say is thank you all for joining and for being interested and engaging, because that is I've been asked here about different issues, and we may not necessarily see eye to eye on each and every issue that is being discussed with regards to Israel. But I think that the most important bottom line is that we have those discussions because we care about this relationship, and I'm happy to see you all here, and I invite you to be in touch with us and let us know if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions. We'd be happy to hear from you, and again, look forward to meeting you all in person when time allows.
Thank you so much. Alex, I don't know if you can still hear us. I know that Ken had asked, yep, there you are, hi. You said you would be able to put the link quickly for Ken for the passport thing. So I wanted to make sure that you were able to do that in the chat. You're muted.
And Alex, if you could also share the link to the webinar that we had yesterday with the Ministry of Tourism.
Thank you. I just want to make sure everybody has those links before we close down this meeting.
What we could also do, Oli, is we can have Sierra send these links through to you, and you can email them to the participants.
Fantastic. I could totally do that.
Okay, so
yeah.
we'll do that. And yeah, thank you for organizing this.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a pleasure. Welcome to the South. You're still fairly new. It's nice. I've only been here 2.5, 3 years now, so it's nice to find somebody who's newer than I am. Bruchim habayim. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We look forward to having you next week and future weeks for Food for Thought. Check the Facebook group. Send me a message. I'll be glad to tell you we have some really exciting and interesting talks coming up. Have a great afternoon, everybody. I'm going to leave the meeting for another minute while Alex puts the links. So if you want to click on them, you'll have them. And then,
and in any case, we'll see that Sierra also shares by email.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Goodbye.